All right, guys, welcome. This is Dan French. This is another French Workbench podcast episode we have going on here today. And thank you guys for tuning in. You know, this is going to be a great episode today. I have a couple of guests, brand new guests that's not been on this show before, and they have a wealth of information. And if you guys haven't subscribed to the channel, hopefully if you watch this video, please subscribe to the channel. We have all good content coming out, a lot of value that's going on, a lot of information coming from Las Vegas, and just in general, we have a lot of information going on, housing and financing. And so in studio today, I do want to talk to a couple of my guests, people that I've worked with before. I'm going to first introduce the title rep from WFG. She's a title rep. Her name is Esmeralda Lucia. Esmeralda, what's going on today?
Hi, everyone. How's everyone doing?
There you go. This is a great start. And then we also have David Ramirez from Simply Vegas. David, what's happening, buddy?
How's it going? It's good to be on the show.
Yeah, thanks for you guys. I appreciate you coming out. This is a Thursday show, and it's not normal. Normally, I don't go on a Thursday. I did it this week because I had something. I've been very busy, very grateful, but I've had some stuff go on Tuesday this week, and we normally have a scheduled podcast, and it will go back to Tuesday next week. But what I wanted to talk today about is we have a lot of people that are interested in buying a home here in Las Vegas. Buying a home in general is now the time to do that. There's a lottery that we see at these new home tracks. We do a ton of business with new homes. It seems like that's one of the directions, or maybe a good direction of what people are going towards here in Las Vegas, because there's just not a lot of inventory here. And, you know, I'm just curious, you know, Esmeralda, you're a title rep. You talk to a lot of people in the industry. So what is things that you're hearing out there with Vegas and the inventory that's available? Are you seeing challenges?
We do hear that there is some challenges, you know, due to lack of inventory. However, it is a great time to buy right now. So, you know, I hear that there is, you know, victory and actually getting a home.
Yeah. And so, you know, when you look at what your role is you go out and, you know, you provide title, really title insurance. You provide a lot of title, you know, stuff with helping people getting into a house. People always need title. They need title insurance. They have certain things they pay for. Can you explain why somebody would need your services from a title rep perspective?
Well, title and escrow, you need it typically especially if you have a loan, right? Because you want to protect the identity of your home. Well, let's say it like this. You want to ensure that your name is on title and that there's no liens or judgments, whether you're selling the property or buying the property. So you always have a title company that is actually doing the services to make sure that your title is clear, which means that you're buying that home, right? There's no liens, no judgments, and the new purchase. How long have you been doing this type of work? I mean, you've been in the business a long time. You were coming, I've seen you at office to office, knocking on doors. No, listen, you gotta hustle. You know, there's a lot of respect there, and that's what you do. You hustle, you stay in contact with people, and you know, we've done some things together here, guaranteed rate. I'm a loan officer, so we do a lot of stuff together. And so explain how you even got into this business. How did you even start here? I started, I was in the casino industry, and I had a friend of mine that she was a cocktail waitress, and she was dating a loan officer that actually, you know, his sister owned the mortgage company.
Wait a second. You're saying a cocktail waitress dated a loan officer? What in the world? Does that happen all the time or what?
All the time.
Typical Vegas.
Typical Vegas, man.
It's a familiar story, I'm sure. So I was bilingual. So she asked me if I would translate in this mortgage company Saturdays and Sundays.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I don't really know much about the real estate industry at that time. And so I started translating, you know, anything to do with like loans and things like that for the loan officer. So I would just sit there and listen to them. And that's how I started. And I remember someone that was a rep like I am today from First American asked me if I would consider working for a title company. And here I am 20 years later.
So did you feel like, well, you don't know what it is. You're maybe a little bit curious. A lot of times we get into something and it's just something that you're like, you know what, this might be for me. Was there some doubt, or was it, you know what, it's curious enough to me that I wanted just to know what it's about, and maybe you become, you know, where this is where you want to do for your career?
Well, I'll tell you this. So when I started, I was a receptionist, and so I was there for 2 weeks, and I was actually hired to be a escrow assistant. But I had met
So you were a receptionist.
Yeah,
Where were you a receptionist at?
First American.
Oh, okay.
First American.
Okay, that's where you started then.
I started. And believe it or not, I was in the builder side of escrow and title. So I was working in that particular unit. And I remember a salesperson came in, and I didn't know exactly what she did.
Yeah.
But I said, I want to do her job. And I remember the escrow manager was like, what?
Was this like a competition where it's like, you know what? I see what they're doing. I can do this too. This isn't, I mean, you got to work hard, but I mean, it's not something you're like, you know what? I'm too scared to do it.
Right. I was just like, I want to do what she does. And I remember the escrow manager looked at me like, kid, you just started 2 weeks ago. You don't even know what escrow and title is. And I just remember telling her that. And I was like, I'm going to be better than her. I said that. And I was like, I didn't know anything.
Yeah. So Vegas is definitely a different place to be, right? It's there's just a lot of moving parts to Vegas. You know, there's different people, different environments, different job titles. For you, when you're going out and you're talking with these people, because your job is to, used to go down and shake hands, get to know people. You know a ton of people in the city, right?
Right.
So
born and raised. I'm a native as well. So
there you go. So you probably know a lot of people. And so what I guess where I'm going is that, was it challenging to get to where you're at today? Was it something that you were like, you know what, being a title rep wasn't something I thought it would be, because it's a little bit more challenging. It takes years. People think it's just, you jump into these businesses like, real estate, financing, being in a title rep, an escrow officer, or title rep for a company. These things don't just, it takes time, right?
It does. It takes a lot of work, dedication, and you can't take no for, you got to keep asking until you get the yes. So yes, definitely a lot of years. And you have to be, just relentless and not give up.
Yeah, you're relentless. I'm going to tell you right now, that girl would text me and call me, and I'd say, you know what? You got to give her props, man. I mean, she's on it. Like, you got to be on it. And you know what? Sometimes people will say, you know what? Sometimes you can, be annoying. I'm not saying that's what you are, but you have that where it's like, you're politely following up, right? There's that, hey, I'm here, just let you know, have a good day. Where some people are like, are you going to use me? Are you going to use me? And it's like, for you is a little different, right? And so I think your professionalism is something to look at. And that's why I have you here today. So I want to go and delve right into looking at what escrow and what title is. Okay. And can you explain the difference and explain through a transaction? Everybody doesn't understand. Like, for instance, I had a situation where a person was buying a new home, and they were like, well, can I use any title company that I want to use? And I said, of course. They're like, well, they told me I got to use my title company. So yeah, you do, in that sense, where it's not like in the contract, and David can maybe look at this, but is it, when you're going through title and people are starting to pick who they want to use, traditionally, you have the real estate agent pick the title company. So it's very hard, I think, for a client out there to say, I'm just going to randomly go out there and pick somebody. So you have to really shake the trees and get business from real estate agents, right? And lenders, correct?
Correct.
And so when you're going out there and you're looking at, who do I target and how does this work? So you seek out real estate agents, you try to earn their business to become a business relationship. But that's really how people usually get into using a title company, but technically people can use whatever title company that they want. And Absolutely. I think there's a misconception on that. Now, explain to everybody out there or anybody that's going to watch this video, what is the difference between escrow and then title insurance?
Well, escrow is the actual process of what happens with the escrow, right? So the title part is the insurance. So that part, or that department, I should say, they take care of any liens, judgments. They're the ones that make sure that that property is either clear from anything that's on title. Yeah. The escrow part is the actual service. That is a different department. That's a group of people that they're making sure all parties are submitting to everything that's based on the contract of the sale. So they follow the instructions, and they make sure that everybody else does as well. So we're the third party, non-neutral, to the actual
So,
transaction.
so does the escrow company actually collect the money for this? Like they make sure like, okay, John Doe's provided his paperwork or his income or his money. He's the seller. You got the buyer that's got to wire their money. And then,
Right.
if it's a loan, then you have the bank wiring their money. The escrow company is really the third party that's saying, okay, guys, we all met what the contract says. Is that kind of what's happening?
Exactly. So that's what escrow does. They make sure they collect the funds. They make sure that they pay off if there's payoffs, if there's liens or judgments, or, they pay off all of the parties involved. So, yes.
What happens if you're looking at the preliminary title report? That shows ownership, right? It shows if there's any mechanics liens or any type of lien.
Right.
What happens if you find something out? What is the process? Does it, oh, wait, everybody, we have to stop. There's something big going on here. So what happens there?
Well, once we have if there's a prelim and there's a lien or a judgment, so what we do is we submit a demand depending on what it is. So for example, we'll just say like a tax lien. So then we go back and we request a state of identity, an SI.
Tax liens are big, right? Those are
Yes.
like the biggest liens. I think those take priority. You got a mechanics lien or something like that where, let's say some work wasn't done on an AC unit, that typically goes on and you didn't pay the person.
Exactly.
Then they're gonna put that on the title, right? And they're gonna say,
Right.
well, once you sell your house, we're getting paid. We're not
Exactly.
gonna just let this one go under the rug. But if you look at the tax part of it, do those come across a lot where they're on there? Because those take precedence over
They do.
everything, right?
Right. They do. And sometimes it's not worth selling the property if the money's not there. So sometimes those actual transactions, they don't close based on the amount of taxes that's owed to that property. So when we have that, we execute, making sure that, if you have an attorney that's involved, then we get the demands, we get all the information to make sure that it matches the person that has the tax lien, which would be usually the seller.
Usually be the seller, right?
Right.
And so you're looking at, you got escrow, you got title insurance, okay?
Right.
What is title insurance? Why do you need this?
Well, you need title insurance. Let's say, for example, let me give you a scenario. So most people don't know that you don't need title if you buy something cash. You don't really need title. You don't have to have it. However, you should have it
Yeah.
because it's just like a car, right? If you have to have insurance in case one day you might get in an accident. Doesn't mean that you're going to get in an accident, but you have it just to protect you. It's the same thing with title insurance. If you have the title,
Uh-oh, somebody's calling. Hold on one second. There you go. Go ahead. What were you saying?
oh, sorry,
That's okay.
so if you have, let's say, for example, you buy a house and then suddenly a lien pops up, and that lien should have been taken care of before the purchase of your home.
Yeah.
But you have title insurance from that title company. The title company is liable now. They have to pay for that because that should have been removed prior to you buying that home.
Right.
So by having the title insurance, it covers that. So those are just some of the benefits of having it.
Just to jump
Go
in
ahead,
real
David.
quick.
Yeah.
Do you have different timelines on the title insurance? Is there a 5-year period where they cover the property?
I mean, as long as you have the title insurance, there is no time frames. The only time that it's not eligible is if you sell the home, then it's a different policy. So as long as you have the property, that policy is good as long as you own the property.
So how do these fees come about? I know everybody's always saying, well, one company charges this, and then,
Right.
it's always this comparison. And I think for the most part, most title companies are relatively about the same. But
Right.
is there certain fees that some other title companies charge that are miscellaneous stuff that's not needed?
I mean, there's, some companies charge junk fees. They might have like a email fee, a fax fee.
Right.
And, those, are they excessive where it's going to break the bank? Probably not. But will they make a little difference? Yeah. It might be $200-$300.
Everybody always asks that question to me.
Yeah.
They're like, well, why do I got to pay owner's title policy? And it's like, well, somebody's got to protect the lender. Somebody's got to protect the owner, right? I mean, as far
Exactly.
as what's going on. So is there ever an instance where you can get out of owner's title policy? I had a gentleman one time. This guy was literally buying the house he was buying from his landlord. So he
Okay.
was buying the home he was living in. And he's trying to just, get every fee removed that he can. He went to bat and he was fighting with title. And he's like, look, title just like, dude, I don't care. Don't even worry about owner's title insurance. We don't care. Just let's close the deal. But I mean, you have to think everybody's doing a job. But is there some fees that are negotiable? I'm not saying that I'm setting you up, but is there some fees where it's like, well, sometimes you can get around these things, but sometimes you can't?
If the only time you can probably get it around some type of a fee where there's a discount is if they qualify for that discount.
Yeah.
The reason is because, we're insured, and by the state of Nevada, these fees are already filed. So you can't really negotiate. This was something that was changed a couple years ago. So at one point, maybe you could have, but today the fee is what the fee is. Not unless you qualify for an actual discount, then that's different.
So let's talk about why or what these fees are. So you got an escrow fee. Correct. And that escrow fee goes directly to the escrow, obviously the escrow service, right?
Right.
So there's a fee for that. Then you got, what other fees are there? There's sometimes a notary fee. You have a closing protection letter fee, right? And if you're doing a loan, what other fees that are on there that are comparable? You always look at a lender, because I'm going to compare it to a lender standpoint. Right. Also a realtor standpoint. I charge fees, processing and underwriting a fee. Those are comparable that you can go and shop for a loan for. What about you? It's escrow, right?
Escrow, you have title.
Insurance?
Yeah, title insurance. Some title companies have like loan tie fees. We don't have that. That's just basically an extra fee for the services.
Right.
You have a notary fee.
Okay.
Our notary fee is not our fee. It's a fee for a service. Right. So that's usually an independent contractor that comes in and does a signing.
Sure.
And it could be because maybe you need it for after hours, circumstances like that.
Do you have people get upset at you? Like, let me give you an example. If somebody looks at this and they're like, you know what, like a lender or a realtor, hey, this is outrageous. I don't want, they just,
right.
Do you have any stories where people are like, you know what, they're upset or they're just confused about why title's even needed or why it's necessary? It seems like that's kind of the untold part of everybody just kind of goes and follows suit, right? I mean, they don't really, right? They just are like, oh, I'm supposed to have title? Okay, well, let's do it. I don't know, but is this what is normally supposed to happen? Everybody knows the realtor. The realtor is the fun part, right? The lending is not the fun part. The title is not the fun part. They want to get the inside about what's happening.
David is the only fun part.
Well, it's because it's like I'm buying a house. I see it. You can't see a mortgage. You can't see title insurance. You can't see these things.
Right.
So I'm just saying that it's yours and mine is not so much glamorous, right? It's not a glamorous position to be in. We just try to do what we can. But for people out there, it's obviously a necessity on every loan, but I want to give somebody an insight, all right, about some of the things that goes on behind the scenes from the title perspective.
Well, there's a lot of fraud. So I'll give you guys an example. A couple years ago, there was a lot of people that were getting divorced, and there was a lot of quick claims. And I had
What's a quick claim? People don't know what that is.
Quitclaim is a document where you're either adding someone to title or removing someone to title.
Now that's also the lowest amount of warranty, right, for a person.
Right.
It's a cloud on title. If you do a cloud on title or you do a quick claim deed, you can remove those. If a name change, that's a big one. It's the name change, right? If it's spelled wrong, that's a big deal. People don't know. Yeah, and so you do a quick claim deed. That stuff's obviously fixed or removed. What other things that you deal with typically?
Those are some of the things that are requested. I'll tell you guys a little incident that happened. Me personally, I was actually doing the notary, and I had a couple that were divorced. So one was signing a quick claim.
Yeah.
And so I had the wife, an hour prior to the husband, whatnot. And at the time of the signing of the husband, I don't know what happened, but the wife came in. And he brought his girlfriend, and, they were fighting, and she didn't want to sign the quick claim. And it just got really crazy. Yeah. And, I was scared. I was like, oh, my God, are these two going to fight?
I was going to say, it's being a notary, it's obviously a different world, right? Because you're traveling somewhere to somebody's house.
Exactly.
Do you feel vulnerable when you go, because it's different than being in a title office, right? You got people around you. You go there. I'm not saying you got to be scared, but I'm just saying it's different. And so when you're doing the notary part, is it a little bit more like I got to be cautious?
Well, you're in someone else's environment.
Right.
So, when you come in, you don't really know what to expect. You might get bit by a dog. You're walking in, the pit bull might not like you. So, those are some of the things that maybe as a notary you have to think about. So
we have a lot of out-of-state buyers.
Yeah.
You know, we deal with a lot of people, and a lot of people are buying second homes, investment properties. Sometimes they're buying primary. They just haven't moved out here yet.
Right.
So there's a lot of notary action going on. And I think a lot of times when you're a notary, how do you, like, where do they find these people? Are these notaries really people that are title reps, or are they just notary and they're just getting documents and they're saying, hey, I'm going to go sign this stuff?
You know, typically we hope that whoever the notary is, that they're professional and they know what they're doing. But is there notaries that probably don't? Yes, there is. But what people don't understand about a notary is their job is really not to sit there and explain document by document.
Right.
Their job is only to notarize the documents and be a witness that you are who you say you are.
So they don't know anything about these documents.
Yeah,
they're going out there and they're just like, okay, guys, sign here and send them back. They can't sit there and explain, well, the Patriot Act is blah, blah, blah,
Right.
blah, blah. They don't know any of that, or they can't really explain what a closing
Well,
disclosure.
they might know. I mean, if you have some notaries, they're knowledgeable, so they probably do know how to explain those documents. But technically, it's not their job. And I think there's a misunderstanding on what a notary does and what their job is. And their responsibility, the only thing they're responsible for is that they signed the documents that need to be notarized and that they are who they say they are, which is providing your driver's license or a passport or whatever that is to prove that you are who you are to sign the documents. And if they help you by explaining,
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a plus. But
So
yeah.
I had an issue recently where there was a builder, and the builder was like, you know what? We got analytical people in this world. We really do. There's a lot of smart people. I mean, you got the internet. You got a lot of people out there that got sharp minds. And so I had a lady that called me, and she's doing a loan with me. And, I've had a story where the builder was really trying to push the lender. They got two lenders. They're just sending information. Done a lot of no stuff, in my opinion, a lot of shenanigans. But at the end of the day, they're sending this information over.
Right.
And she's like, why are these people contacting me? So now that raises her thought and goes, well, let me really see what's happening here. So now the questions are coming out. And the first thing she asked me is, so they just sent me over their title information or their title company. And do I have to use that title company? I'm like, well, the contract might say that, per agreement, you have to use it. But is that true? Like where, let's say you're in a builder's position, you probably have builders you work with. I'm sure that they send you business. Do they really have an out though? Can they really look at other companies and say, you know what? I might want to use my own company or my own appraiser.
We get that question all the time. It's a little bit different. Well,
It's a different
different world.
It is,
Yeah.
because there's certain customary things that you do, and technically you can. But then, do they write in the contract? Because I don't know, and that's why I'm asking. Do they write in the contract? Maybe David, you can answer this. Do they write in the contract that this says, you know what, you can use whatever title company you want, but if you sign with us, you can't use that title company or anybody else? Is that normally how it works?
Yeah, typically, for the most part, the first step, you look at the MLS, and a lot of times the seller will have a suggestion on which title company they want to use. And if not, I'll put this down lower.
Yep. If not, go ahead.
If not, then the buyer would have the option to choose their title company, based on the fees, the relationships they have with the title reps and things like that. So based on the contract, you want to follow the contract, what it says. But if they want to switch title companies, they can always drop an addendum and then use a different title company.
What about for the builder side? That's, I think, kind of to what Dan was asking.
Yeah, is the builder going to be like up in arms? Like, well, wait a second. We got everything tied up. Everything's kind of what we wanted. And now you're changing our whole plan, our game plan. Is that really screwing things up?
It is, but at the end of the day, it's up to the buyer. Ultimately, has the final say.
They have all the say, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
They do.
And if you really wanted to go to bat, one of my clients, they were frustrated. They were frustrated because they had builders out there that were saying, look, here's lender A, here's B, here's C. And what's funny is she's like, no, I'm going to use Dan. I've worked with Dan for 5 years. I trust Dan. Okay, well, get pre-approved with them. No problem. Did pre-approval. All of a sudden, they're like, you're going to, not get the incentive. Hey, it's not that much. I'm not worried about it, right? So later down the road, there was another lender from there. And I was like, wait a second. I'm like, hold up. Okay, so we had one, now we got two lenders calling her. And that's like, okay, now she's really frustrated. Now she's like, wait a second, I can't deal with this no more. And so now she's looking at me going, does this normally happen? And I go, listen, this is the dog eat dog world. Our industries is all about trying to take advantage or get a situation where, you know, if there's an opportunity and a door opens, they're going to take advantage of it. So she was frustrated. So I called that lender and I said, wait a second, how did you find my client? And I go, you're not a preferred lender with this builder, are you? And they're like, oh yeah, we are. And I'm like, wait a second, you know? So it just seems like there's such a protocol, such a process, but I think it almost disarms clients for why things were put in place before, right? All these laws, all these regulations, they were put in place to give people options. And these options seem like right now, everybody's going new home. How much inventory do we got on right now, David?
Last time I checked it, we were at 2,700 homes, single family homes on the market.
Days on the market.
Lowest we've ever seen.
Lowest ever.
Lowest ever.
Wow.
And so
crazy.
we're 29% lower year over year than last year for inventory. You know, and everybody's telling me, well, rates are going to change that. They may change that, but what if rates don't go up this whole year, right? What if they don't go up until next year? What if the economy needs to have the government step in, which they're going to, and keep this thing, you know, where everybody's afloat, right? Because the economy's not recovered. Everybody thinks, well, we're back to work and everything's happening. And yeah, you see people, but it's not recovered. It's not back to where it should be, in my opinion. But if you look at the inventory levels, is it alarming to you, David, the fact that we don't have a lot? Where is new business coming from? A lot of it's going to new homes, right? Homes that aren't created yet. You're on a waiting list. We just had one go into contract. So what are your thoughts on this? Where do you think this home situation is going to go?
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting market. I mean, we're seeing just a California exodus. Everybody's coming in from California. That's the majority of the people that are coming in. I had 5 transactions last month. Out of the 5, 3 were from California. So we're just seeing a ton of people flooding out here. What they're doing is they're selling their properties out there for double what they're worth out here. So for example, they're selling the property for $1 million in California, and they're able to buy cash here for $500,000. And they're getting double the size of their house out here in Vegas.
And can you blame them? Like if I was in a situation and it's like, you know, everybody's like, well, there's not a lot of jobs set up here, or how are they going to survive?
Right.
You got to think they're going to take $500,000 maybe of equity from a house, assuming they don't have capital gains, right? And bring that money, and they're going to put this money down. But you know what? They might not need a job that's going to support a $5,000 mortgage. If they're putting so much money down, they might only need to have a $1,500 or $2,000 mortgage, which that's what everybody's kind of doing, right? So you see a lot of transitioning, pivoting from Hawaii, California. You know, you got people from East Coast.
A lot of people
A lot of people from East Coast. You got Jersey, right? So you see a lot of these people that are moving here and repositioning. But the thing I look at is, are we going to run out of properties? You know, you got people. We just had somebody, like I said, that's in contract. She's on a waiting list, or they were on a waiting list. It was like 2 or 3 weeks, and they finally got into a contract. Are we going to see that extend out further? Do you think it's going to be, instead of 3 weeks, it's going to be 7 or 8 weeks on the list or the waiting list if you're trying to buy a new home?
There's a lot of variables. So right now we have a backup of materials, lumber, all the construction materials for the new homes. They're backed up. So there's a lot of different systems in place that account for the timeline on when somebody could be in line for the new home. And so it's going to take a factor of a lot of different things to find out exactly where the market is going to go in the next 3 to 6 months. But from what we've been seeing, as far as the mortgage moratorium, according to the government, it's going to end, I believe, June 30th, they said.
Okay.
So starting July 1st, we're going to see if that's going to take effect, if that's going to affect our market, whether or not we're going to get more inventory as far as resales go.
That's a good question. And now there's been some things that's come out, though, that said they may extend till January of 2022.
I heard that too.
Now, that hasn't, I mean, think about that. You know, it's like you don't have to pay anything. And they're also looking at maybe getting some type of program. I don't think the government's going to let this thing just fall apart. I think they're going to put something together where, guess what? If you're somebody that was unemployed, we still have 10 million people roughly across the country unemployed. You know, I think across the country, there's only a little over 1 million homes. You know, and like I said, 29% were down from last year. I just don't know what's going to help provide more inventory. People have to have a place where if they sell their home, where are they going after that, right? Where are they going to end up? If they got nowhere to go, guess what they're going to do? Stay put. Mm-hmm. So if it's not that and rates don't go up where everybody starts to retract, I don't know what's going to change that. I don't really have that answer. Do you have any other thought on it?
No, other than the builders continue to build. I mean, we do have a lot of land still left on the outskirts of town. So we have, the northern region. or I believe Richmond, a couple of other builders that are building out there. So we do have quite a bit of land left, but as far as resales, it's kind of hard to gauge where that's going to go.
Do you have some challenges like your clients, right? So take me through the process of how it goes. You know, you meet a client. Do you really meet a client today?
Like you said, a lot of people are coming from out of town, so we're doing a lot of Zoom meetings, FaceTime.
Yeah.
We're doing video tours on a lot of properties. So for the most part, there are a lot of people that are coming from out of town, and we're just doing a video conference.
Yeah. So you're not traveling to these houses and showing them, and I mean you could do a walkthrough like with your phone if you wanted to, right?
Right.
Okay.
So for example, I had a client. They came down to Vegas for a couple of weeks. We saw maybe 15 properties over a 3-day period. They liked about 2 or 3. We made offers. We got outbid on those offers because it's such a competitive market. So after that, they ended up going back home, and now they realized that we just have to just start making offers, getting competitive. So now we're just seeing properties online, the ones that they like, and we're just writing offers on those properties without even seeing them, based upon their criteria.
I have a lot of agents that I work with that you know just had past histories, and we've done business. And there's some people that I've talked to that have friends in the business that are getting out of real estate, you know, and everybody's telling me, well, real estate, you know, it's kind of competitive right now. There's not a lot of meat on the bone for people to make money. And this is where the weak will fail, right? The strong will survive. And so you're looking at situations right now where people are, I wouldn't say people, but realtors are struggling in some cases. Some aren't, you know, we're fortunate. We're blessed to have something going good. That's a system, but we don't, you know, you look at the inventory, you look at the realtors out there. I've seen realtors literally, you know, crying or almost to the point of tears because they're making offers on properties. They can't get them accepted. You got properties that are going, you know, when offers on these houses, sometimes, you know, 5 or 10, it was a funny story because there was somebody put an offer in and they're like, oh, we only got 7 offers on this house. And I'm like, only, you know, only 7 offers. That's still a lot of offers. Like it's less than what it normally would be. What is the amount of offers that you're seeing right now on homes that are out there?
It really depends on the property. So some, we're seeing a lot of sellers that are getting real aggressive and they're overpricing them. So we're seeing some sellers that are 10, 20, 30,000 above comps. So those properties that are way overpriced, they're getting maybe, like you said, 5 to 7 offers. But the sellers that are ready to sell, they're aggressive. They price the house right. Those are getting 20 to 30 offers easily.
Oh, wow. That's a lot to go through and present.
Well, look, so you look at all these houses and you look at, well, there's not a lot out there, obviously, but when do you think these things, like for the new homes, the lottery, let's talk about that because we were talking about the lottery before we came in. So what is the typical process if somebody wants to go buy a house? They obviously have to get in line. There's a certain protocol. And is it like, hey, I got my lucky number picked? And, you know, everybody thinks like they just, you know, like you said, won the lottery, right? Because you got a house. But then you have to pick whatever house the builder wants that's already created for the most part or what it is. So you don't really have options. I guess I would sit there and think, well, should I buy or should I wait? Because if I buy a home right now, do I really get all the things that I want? Or should I wait until things start to, you know, maybe open up? Builders start to get more properties going. Lumber starts to become cheaper. So now it's accessible a little bit. Because, you know, the cost of building these homes right now, if it's a new home, is up quite a bit. Right. You know, the cost of lumber up crazy amounts, right? We've seen that, you know, here Woodside Homes had some of their wood stolen here in Las Vegas.
It happens all the time.
All the time. You know, and, you know, it's just crazy. So the question I guess I have for this situation is when you look at these new homes and you look at the lottery, take me through the process of what somebody would go through if they had to actually, they drove down here or they flew here and they're going down to get into a lottery and they're like, hey, let's get started, David. How do we get started?
So the first thing, one of the most important things as far as, you know, with the lending side is you want to get pre-qualified. So whether it's with a third-party lender, Dan French, she can help you out with that. Or if you're going to use the builder, you want to get pre-qualified with them first. Once you have the pre-qualification in place, another call coming in?
Yep. Go ahead.
Once you're pre-qualified with the bank, at that point, you would put your name on the list and start the process of waiting for a lot. And it seems like what the builders are doing is they're handpicking these lots for these buyers based upon an algorithm that they have that they believe that people are going to like. And they're also, I believe they're extending it out so they can increase the prices as well. We're seeing prices go up $4,000 to $5,000 per month on these lots. So the base price on a property when somebody entered into the waiting list, after a month of waiting, they get their name called. The base price could have gone up $5,000 to $10,000.
Right.
Oh, wow.
So if you look at where these properties are headed and you look at some of these things going on, I'll tell you a story that happened to me as well. I had a property where we made an offer. Okay. And this is on an existing home. And these people made an offer and we actually had to extend, right, by a couple of days. There was an issue with some of the documents that they were sending in. There was an issue. So we had a couple of days. The seller was willing to keep the earnest money deposit and also pull the money or pull the house off the market because they're thinking in this market, it's been a month, right? You're in a contract, usually 30 or 45 days. It's been a month. I'm going to turn around. I'm going to sell this thing for 30 or I'm not 30, probably like 10 or 15,000 more. Literally, they were trying to make more of a profit and keep the buyer's earnest money deposit. So have you seen that happening in this market?
A couple of times, yeah, definitely seen it. I mean, it's one of the challenges that we have to overcome, but we're there to guide the buyer and give them the best advice that we can so that we can overcome those challenges.
Is that just a scare tactic, though? Has anybody ever really said, yeah, it's 35 days, I'm pulling the house off the market?
Yes, I hear that all the time in title and escrow.
Absolutely.
Right? It's a threat, right? Hey, you don't do what you're going to do, I'm going to make my money. Then I had to get a person that was selling the house on the phone with me, and they're like, so where's the money at? Because he's trying to get cashed out, and I'm like, listen, we already sent our wire, but
right.
these sellers know that I feel like the sellers, we talked about the lottery with new homes. The sellers I think they feel like they hit the lottery because they're selling their house, and these agents are like, you know what? Whatever you post up there, you're going to get it. Is that happening?
Definitely, yeah. Especially right now with the market being so crazy, a lot of people are waiving the appraisal contingency. So there are people that have to make an offer 5, 10, 15,000 above list and then waive the appraisal, which means they got to pay the difference if it doesn't appraise. So we've been seeing that a lot.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot as well.
Yeah.
And I've also seen when people have lost their earnest money based on timeframes all the time.
I bet people are upset, man, when they lose their earnest money. I mean, you can go to court, though, and try to get that back, right?
You can. Small claims. All the time it happens. I've seen it probably in the last 6 months, at least 2 to 3 times a day. That's just in our company.
It's been increasing?
Yes.
So it's increased a lot then, huh?
It has. So
wow,
it's happening, unfortunately.
Wow. And so, that's another thing that you have to consider. It's look at all this risk that I'm putting out there. So is now really a good time to buy? I think it is. I mean, if you're looking to buy a home and you have nowhere to go and you're paying rent, there's rent agreements and leases out there that every year it goes up on average 3%. They write it into the contract. It's like, hey, the cost of living goes up, so it's 3%. If you know that that's going up, the two things you got to look at is rates are still low. You look at inventory's low. I understand you may overpay for a house, but I think a lot of these people are stuck. I really do. I think there's a lot of people out there that want to buy. They're probably sitting on the sidelines because they're like, look, you know what? I thought maybe I missed the boat. Maybe I should have bought a year and a half ago, right? I don't know. I mean, what do you guys see is happening where I just can't wait for the inventory part to open up here. I really can't because I think that's going to start. People need to go back to work. I think employment's going to be a big part of that. What do you think?
Definitely. We see Las Vegas opening up right now back to 50%. I think Wynn and Encore just announced they're going to go back to 24/7 operations. We're seeing, I think, Caesar's Palace, a couple other properties that are doing that as well, back to 24/7
That's
operations.
phenomenal news.
That's
it really
huge.
is.
Yeah.
Doors are
do you
open.
head down to the Strip a lot?
I haven't in a while, but to answer that question, Dan, about is the time for you to buy, I would say anytime that you are in a position to buy, you have a job, you're good to buy. Because I remember when the market tanked and I was in a position where even though I was in real estate, I couldn't buy because my company went out of business. So if you're in a place in your life today and you have a job and you have what you need to qualify, then yeah, that's the time to buy.
I think too, a lot of it is people are scared.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. I mean, people are probably uncertain about the economy.
Well, yeah, because you see, shortage, you're like, what's going to happen?
Mm-hmm. And everybody's trying to time the market. They're always saying, is the market going to collapse? Are we going to go through a recession? You know what? I always said this, and I think a lot of people agree with me. When rates go up, when they do, or if they do, here's the thing. I don't think they're going to go up this year, though. So you're going to be seeing another year probably of people starting to get back to work and things starting to get back to normal a little bit, but you're still not going to see a full recovery. As the vaccine and as this COVID thing happens, as that recovers, so will the economy, right? So
right.
I'm just thinking that, well, what if this happens next year where you start to see rates go up And is that really going to be the year where this is just a lost year where people are going to be fighting for properties? You know, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think it's going to be later this year, third quarter, or is it a next year thing? Are you going to see the same consistency we're seeing over this year?
I mean, that's obviously the magic question everybody wants, right? You need a magic 8 ball to find out what the economy is going to do. But I think, like you said, the rest of this year, we're just going to see growth in our economy as far as the vaccine coming out, people going back to work, and property values are just going to keep increasing for the rest of the year, I believe. And then next year, we're going to start to see if we get more inventory. We'll see some of that,
start to pull back.
Rates, start to pull back a little bit.
I mean, how much more do you think it's going to increase this year, though? And just your thoughts. I mean, do you think it would be, because like, what did we appreciate last year?
I'd have to say it was maybe 15, 20%, something like that.
That's big numbers, man.
Huge.
15%. That means,
huge.
look, and that's where people, I think, come in and they're like, you know what? I don't have a problem to spend, 15, 20,000 because I'll make it up in 6 months. I'll make it up in 8 months. And then, like you said, if you're selling from California, you're making a profit, a huge profit. Yeah, you're losing 20, but you're getting a house. There's some guarantee there a little bit where, yeah, I got the assets to get in if I need to. But I think a lot of people that are here, that are living here, and they're just working their, the normal family, whatever it is, and they're making just, $50,000, $60,000 a year. That's not going to cut it in today's world, right? You got to really have a 2-income family or make a substantial amount of money to buy a house today. Is that right?
Right. Yeah, definitely. That's definitely what we're seeing right now, especially with rates are still low. So that's helping out with the, the DTI, debt to income ratios, helping people out with their monthly expenses. But we're definitely going to see that coming up.
Where do you think this is going for you as far as title and all these things? You see a lot of numbers and data out there, right?
We do.
Okay, Esmeralda. So, Esmeralda, if you look at what's happening in today's world, building inventory and all these things that's going on, what are you hearing out there in the grapevine? Do you think, are people concerned, like real estate agents, people in the industry, are they concerned about, not being able to survive until, later when these things start to turn, where the inventory starts to open up, all these things start to come back?
We had some statistics that were done through WFG, and they were interesting what the statistics were, because I think that the conversation was like, yes, some people, they fear like what's going to happen. But what we saw in those statistics was that the younger generation today, that's our priority, to own a home. And there's so many different types of jobs that we realize that Zoom is really what you need to do with a lot of job occupation. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that, excuse me, sorry.
That's okay.
There's a lot of things that are happening today that we didn't see 5 years ago.
Right.
That are taking place today. But that's also opening the doors for the youth. And what the statistics were through WFG with some of that was that the youth was buying homes more than ever. And it was huge numbers. It was like quadruple of what we've seen within the last 10 years.
What do you think the contributing factor is for that? Why do you think, it's not millennials, is it?
Yeah.
It's millennials. Why is millennials now? Is it because they just kind of, as you get into your 30s, right? I bought my first home when I was 27, I think is what it was. And when you start to get into your 30s, people start to think, well, I got a family. I want to get a family. I want to get a house. I want to establish myself. And unfortunately, I mean, everybody's like, well, I don't want to get a loan. Well, unfortunately, these houses cost a lot of money, right?
Right.
And you got to have a place to rent. You got to have a place to where you're paying your bills, and you got to have a place to store things. And so either pay rent or buy, right? And so what's pushing them in the market? Is it just because time has passed? Now a lot of these millennials are now in their early 30s, maybe late 20s, early 30s.
Late 20s.
And their mind starts to shift, right?
Exactly.
Is that what you think's happening?
That's what statistically was proven. And that's what they said, that, yeah, they're in their 20s, late 26. Usually is when you start a family and you need a home. And usually they look for houses. And that's where the market is right now. So the trends of the market shifting, from what the statistics show, it wasn't to decrease, it was actually to increase. So
isn't that interesting numbers, David? Because you'd think that with all this going on, millennials they're very educated too, I would say, especially with the internet, with all the data, all that content at their fingertips, right? Technology. It's like they grow up, everybody's growing up now with a tablet in their hand. So with all that information, what makes you think that they're trying to, or what makes you think one of the other factors is why they're coming in the market? Something's changing, obviously their mindset, but what other things would you think is changing for millennials and people jumping into this market, when you would think that that wouldn't be the case. You would think that they would probably go the opposite direction and just kind of wait it out.
I think going back to what she said is like occupations now, everybody can work remotely. And that's a big thing with millennials, I think right now, is working from the computer, working from your house and things like that. That's huge in today's world. When before you actually had to show up to an office, manual labor, go to a job and do physical things. And now a lot of the things are virtual. So I think that's a huge shift in employment for millennials. Now they're able to earn an income while they're at home on the computer. And we've seen a lot of buyers that are qualifying now based on income earning from home.
And then too, another thing that, with the shutdown, people realize that their home is so important, because if you're home all day, then you have to be comfortable in your home. So that was another reason why there was a shift with that as well, because they realized, I need to own a house that has a backyard or has an office, or I can't work here, it's too small, or, so those were some of the statistics that were proven why the market was shifting and why the housing market started increasing, and there was a demand in, buying a home.
Yeah.
And that was the main reason, because people were staying home and they realized that my home needs to be comfortable for me to be here, because now I'm working here, my kids are here, they're doing Zooms for the kids. So before you leave and you go to, most of the time you're spending it at work, you're not at home. So you don't really realize what's going on at home because you're not there that often. You're mostly at work.
Yes.
But if you're there all day, people started paying attention, like, wait, I'm not comfortable here. Like, it's not big enough. The kids are crying. I can't focus. I have Zoom meetings, and my kids have Zoom meetings. I have them in the kitchen.
A lot of things going on.
Yeah. And so that was what those statistics were showing, that was one of the reasons there was this increase that was drastic. And that was the main reason.
Yeah, I think I'm cut from a different cloth. Maybe you guys are too. I can't work from home. I get distracted. I mean, I got things going on. I got dogs barking in the. I'm telling you, I'm sitting there thinking, I'm driving, and I'm like, you know what? I got an okay house. It's not great, but it's nice. It's decent, right? And you're like, how often am I here? Like, I'm starting to think, like, how many hours am I here during the day? And I think people are starting to be home, like you said, and they're starting to see their surroundings, like you made a point. And I think that does play a big factor in today's world. I really do. And I'm doing a lot of deals now with people that are working remote. They get an HR letter, right? Yeah. Or they say, you know what, my job's made permanent, and just, now they can support it. And, we have a few deals like that. Now, going back to what you were saying is, when you have a lot of people that are going through the process of being at home, and you have people that are now buying because they want to be at home, is that a situation where, it's helped you? Meaning, your situation when you were staying at home and you were working, did that help you? Meaning, like, did you go through the process and you enjoyed that more than being out? Because I know your job is like, you got to go and meet people. Did you adapt well?
You know what? I didn't know what it was going to be like. I was like, oh my God, I don't ever work from home. This is weird. But I ended up adapting to Zooms, right? Because that's all I could do was Zooms. I like people, unfortunately. I like to see people face to face. But I was able to adapt, but only because I didn't have a lot of distractions at home.
Yeah.
But if you have distractions, it's really hard.
It's really hard.
Yeah, because I sometimes I would stay at my boyfriend's house. He has kids and dogs, and I'm trying to do a Zoom here. They can hear the dogs barking, like you said, and then you hear the washer and dryer. And I was like, oh, this is crazy. And people were like, do you need me to hold on? I'm like, yeah, I have the dog coming up. I'm like, wait, hold on. Let me put you on mute.
What about you, David? Did you have an issue where you were staying at home and you were having, was it easy for you to adapt to working at home?
No, definitely not. I'm right there with you. I have to get out of the house. I can't really work from home.
Yeah.
Because in our business, it's about building relationships with people. So you're sitting at home isolated. I mean, you could do Zoom and things like that, but it's not the same as getting out in the world and physically talking to people, getting out there. And, at least you're in the office talking to other colleagues. It brings up other opportunities and things like that. So it was a huge difference.
You're in the knowing in the office, right? You're in the knowing.
Well, you were born and raised here, right, Esmeralda?
Yes.
Okay. And then what about you, David? Were you born and raised here too?
Same thing, yep.
Okay. So what do you guys like most about Vegas? People always want to know, is Vegas just about the Strip? There's obviously other things to do outside of Las Vegas and the Strip. What do you guys love about it? Like, is there something that's just home? I mean, it's a home feeling. You grew up, this is probably all you know. But what makes you not want to venture out and find another place to live? Is it just Vegas has everything here at your fingertips. Is that one of the big things?
24 hours when everything is normal. I think that's a big thing. For me, I travel a lot, so I think that 24 hours is a huge advantage.
Yeah.
I mean, you can, you can order pizza any time of the day. I mean, aside of the pandemic. Another thing too is, I know it's hot and a lot of people don't like the heat, but we don't have hurricanes here. We don't have tornadoes. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to board.
I have a basement.
You don't have to board the windows and.
You didn't see that tornado hit last night?
Nope, I didn't.
Man. Mandalay Bay was hit real hard. No, I'm just playing.
See, those things to me are, I don't know, I think those are huge advantages. We don't have to worry about things like that. And our city's trendy. I like that.
Do we even have homes that have basements here?
There's a few.
There's a couple. Yeah.
For what reason? Is it more for just a man cave? Primarily?
Man cave, yeah. Nursery or
something
office.
like that.
Yeah,
It's not
movie theater.
Yeah.
I've seen that. Yeah,
but it's always in those big multi-million-dollar homes, right? It's
Most of the time, yeah.
It's not going to be just like your 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, and you're just like, I'm going to pull this up and walk down there. It's like
exactly.
You got this little cubby hole. It's like it's usually like you walk down there and you're like, wait a second, this is another house. It's like the whole bottom layer of these multi-million-dollar homes. I walked into one. It had a bowling alley. It had a whole man's room. It had like one of them had a home theater. It was amazing stuff. I mean, but again, is it just, it's one of those things because it's another way for you to make another room or another.
Exactly.
So I don't know. But yeah, for me, I think Vegas to me it always feels like there's life in this city.
Exactly.
There's always something happening. I don't ever feel like when you go to these small cities, and I'm not saying anything if anybody's living in a small city, but when you go to these small cities, I swear it's like I can only be there for a day or two, and it's just like, man, it's just kind of boring here. It's just like I'm used to being out. You go down the strip, you always have people going out and doing stuff. There's always something new going on, always something new with entertainment. So I don't know. To me, I don't think I would ever leave Vegas. I'm from California. Definitely some perks from California, but it's not something
What part of California?
Oh, Rancho Cucamonga area.
Okay.
Yeah, it was nice. Yeah, it's nice. I used to go to the Ontario Mills Mall all the time. And it was like the biggest mall. Everybody's like, oh, they're building the biggest mall. And I'm like, okay, I got to be there all the time. So I was down there, I was like 18, 19.
Right.
So I was down there hanging out, and we used to eat, go out and eat and stuff there. But the whole thing is that when you move here, I don't see, from my perspective, either you cut the mold to stay here, or you leave. And it's usually the people that leave, they can't handle the fast-paced life of this place. Really, it is. I don't know if that's the same with you guys, but is that what you see when you see people or meet people? Either it's like usually after a year, you stay here, they feel it out, and they're gone, or they're going to stay here. And they don't normally, leave. You know what I mean? So it's like some people just like Vegas and some don't. But I don't know. To me, I just enjoy living here.
Vegas has good food, too. It's trendy, and we mimic a lot of different places of the world, and I think we do a pretty good job.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's another thing about Vegas. You have the experience of Vegas, but a touch of other parts of the world, and I think that's awesome.
We're going to end this stream.
We provide that. So,
T. Olson, we see your comment, and also Michael, we see your comment. Thank you so much. If you guys want to get a hold of us outside studio, you can reach out to me, vegasloanguru.com. If you're in the market, David here, he can help you out, try to maybe find you a house. If you're moving to Las Vegas, I don't know if you're still on. But it's been a very interesting conversation. I like to thank you guys for coming in.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Do you guys have any other final comments or anything about anything?
I mean, Vegas is a great place to live. And on that note, we have great weather aside from the summer. A lot of good things to do here in Vegas. So,
and it's affordable homes that are really nice, and you have just a better quality of life when it comes to housing and entertainment. Just nice.
Anybody out there looking for financing, real estate, that's what we do. I'm a lender with Guarantee Rate. You got David here, Simply Vegas. He's a real estate agent, David Ramirez. And you got Esmeralda Lucia. She's with WFG Title Company, right?
Yeah, National Title.
So you guys, thank you so much for following with us. If you guys have any comments in the comment section below. If you guys are just coming across this channel, please subscribe to my channel. I'm going to put out more content. We're trying to put out value. We're trying to get people that are in the industry here in Las Vegas to give you their insight. Thank you so much. You guys have a good night. Thank you for watching an episode of the French Workbench podcast. If you want to tune into past episodes, please subscribe to my channel now. Also, if you want to look at our audio-only options, we do have iTunes, and SoundCloud.